You've also talked about, Ray, the extreme consolidation that's changing the global business landscape. You noted that as this happens, companies need to understand where they fit in the evolving supply chain. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah. So the challenge is if you're an existing business and you're trying to get into this space, you have to realize that the TAM is different, right? Because industries are collapsing. And what I mean, let's take a classic one that's relevant right now: comms, media, entertainment, telecom, right? And technology, right? It's the same business at the end of the day, right? You're selling digital content. It's got to be streamed through a distribution channel. You have a technology platform that people engage with you on, whether it's a mobile device, internet, or set top box, right? Or game console. And you know what? You're building a network of customers, right? So same space, right? So honestly, they're in the same business. Now, we saw AT&T and Verizon exit the content part of the business to focus on building infrastructure. And I'm sitting here like, what the heck are these companies doing? Like, why the heck would you do that? And I realized they can't compete in the global content game. They're not capitalized to do that and fund a 5G rollout. So what they've decided is say, hey, look, we're going to exit this business, cut our losses, and we'll let other people figure that out. But Amazon, on the other hand, is doing the whole thing, right? They've got the whole delivery of comms, media, entertainment, and technology all in one because they've got a distribution platform through Amazon.com. You could be an Amazon Prime member in this space. And so suddenly Netflix, Disney, and Amazon are delivering streaming services at scale around the world, spending $13 billion to $17 billion a year on content. Amazon buying MGM for like $8 billion, right? Round it up. But the point being is they can play in the game because they got scale. And now we're in a different part of this equation. So if you're just building infrastructure as a telco, what are you relegated to? Right? That's a very, very tough position, but you don't have a choice because investors only see you for a certain set of returns and they won't give you the money or capital to go after this venture hard. Disney, on the other hand, managed to pivot out of their amusement park and in-person issue when you're all staying at home to be able to get the content out and delivered as a streaming company overnight. And Disney Plus is in a great position because they're now pushing content around the world and monetizing that same content at massive scale.
Yeah, very interesting. What you describe is the reality of business, but what you're describing isn't necessarily what I don't hear in your descriptions necessarily like what's right for society. And I wonder to what extent do you think better regulations, or what role does the government play in order to level the playing field to some extent? As you describe these emerging duopolies in so many different spaces, what you're also describing is the crowding out of other opportunities and the inability, because some companies have become winners, the inability for others to truly compete with them. So what role do you see government playing in what you've described?
Well, first of all, let's be upfront. I'm a free market capitalist. But in order to have free and fair markets, you need to make sure that competition exists, consumer benefits are out there, and that the level of innovation continues, and that prices and the value to customers are continuing to go down. Right now, the digital giants, we are at the dawn of digital giants and at the rise of digital giants. We're in between those two areas. Are you getting benefits? Totally, right? You get free translation service, a mapping service that works. You don't pay for email. You can connect to the internet for little cost. You're getting awesome levels of content creation, right? You're able to connect with your friends and communicate in ways you never would have thought of. But when that ends, you definitely need regulation. And sometimes you want to put that regulation in advance. And that's got to be done with a cost benefit analysis, because suddenly I don't have choices. If suddenly competitors with great ideas are being shut out of markets, if suddenly that stream of innovation goes away, if suddenly societal good and public good is gone, right? Which is too late, right? So you got to put the right regulations in, but you can't do it with the pretense of I'm doing this because I'm going to run for higher office in the future, which is what's going on right now. That doesn't make sense, right? I know it's populist. It's great to go do that, but we need that happy medium and that cost benefit analysis to say, look, a company over $1 trillion in market cap that has more than 100 million users in their network, right? Here's the behavior we expect. Their network needs to be open, kind of like when we were looking at telecom, like, carriers can do number number portability, right? You can switch between the three carriers at ease, right? So there's no lock-in, right? There are a couple of things we can do. We can talk about personal data being a property right. So now you have to seek consent, right? It's because you're getting a free service because the data is the product and you're the product. Well, let's change that equation and say you need permission and consent for that. So you might pay for that service. You might get paid to be using the service because they want your data. Now we have a market for that data, but it's a property right governed by all 50 states, right? Governed by European law, right? And then the other piece is the fact that, when you have that type of data and that information, you also have to have the right to be disconnected, right? And that takes away that lock-in and also protects your personal freedom and privacy, which means like we still need to have cash. You still need to be able to do something in a paper transaction. You still need to do something in person, just like we have accessibility for folks that might be disabled or have a certain type of access issue. We also want to make sure that that right to be disconnected is available. Right. So by putting those things in place and enforcing the existing antitrust laws that we have, that's enough. Right. We just need to be able to fund that antitrust thing. And so you saw recently 5 antitrust bills pop out last Friday, June 11th. Right. And they're addressing some of that, but not necessarily taking the cost benefit inside. So increasing merger acquisition fees, that's great. We need to fund the antitrust efforts. Totally makes sense. Making sure that data portability is available makes tons of sense. But then when you're trying to restrict a company from competing and putting stuff in their own platform, the controls have to be a little bit more detailed. For example, is price going down, right? You got the situation in DC where someone's like, oh my God, we need to sue Amazon because all the prices are lower. Like, I don't know about that one, right? That doesn't make any sense. Because of Amazon, all the prices are lower. They want the first right of refusal to have the lowest price. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, right? So that breaks the laughability test, right? That doesn't work, right? But if Amazon was actually forcing everything to be more expensive, now we have a case, and that fits within the existing antitrust laws. So Clayton Act, Sherman Act, all those things are still valid. I think people should definitely look at that. They should understand the existing laws before we add new regulation. That's my free market side. But my most important part is the fact that if we're getting those benefits to society, make sure we capture all those benefits, right? Low cost to access the internet, right? The ability to connect people, like streamlined financial systems, right? The ability to get to social networks and entertainment at scale. I mean, this is an amazing period we're living in. We don't want to curtail those innovations, but we also want to make sure new competitors have a fair shot.